Hey, welcome everyone to Detox. Sorry, we're filming this because we have so many people every year that ask us that they missed it and they really want the information, so we will film it. So just know that if you ask a question, it'll probably be on film. If there's something you really want us to edit out, we can do that. So for those of you that I have not met, my name is Dr. Leah Hahn. What we're going to talk about tonight is detox. I'm going to explain a little bit about why I'm so passionate about people making health choices or different changes with their health. And so I'm going to go through a little bit about my story, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of detoxification, which I hope it's fun. I hope we can make this class really fun. So please participate whenever you feel like it. Raise your hand, ask a question, make a comment so that we can all work on this together. So what I'll tell you about my own story, because detoxification has been a big part of my life in a good way, in a healthy way. So what I will say about that is that since I was a little kid, I've always known that I really wanted to be a doctor, because I always knew that I really wanted to help people, and I was pretty good at maths and sciences, so just kind of pushed in that direction. And when I was, I'm trying to think about this, when I was probably in later elementary school, I started noticing that my mom was getting sicker and sicker. And so she went to lots of different medical doctors over the years. She went to just about every specialist in the state of Minnesota. And what they found was that each time, if you guys have ever been through this experience yourself, what happened each time she went to a medical doctor or a different specialist? A different medication. And along with the different medication, what else did that involve? A different diagnosis and side effects. So by the time I was probably about, I would say probably about 15, my mom was really, really sick at this point, and I'll describe that, but she had been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, with lupus, with Sjogren's disease, which anyone knows what that is, when you're, all of like the mucosal membranes of your body get really dry and painful, hypothyroidism. Eventually they would diagnose her with celiac disease as well, but do you guys see the common pattern in all of those issues? They're inflammatory based, they're usually high toxicity based within the system, but they're also autoimmune issues. So they're all this clump of autoimmune issues that she was dealing with. What do you guys think the #1 contributing factors of autoimmune issues are?
Chemicals.
Chemicals, a big one. Chemical exposures throughout our lives, and stress. High stress. And so by the time I was about 15, I still really wanted to be a doctor, but my mom got to this point where her health was just getting worse and worse and worse. I can remember, if I go back to those early or late elementary school times, when I would get home from school, and I just remember this day really specifically when I was so excited because I had done really well in a test, and I had done something really well in gym class, which wasn't really my forte, so it was a really exciting day for me. But I remember searching through the house to find my mom, and I just finally found her passed out in bed, just absolutely exhausted. So her health continued down that path for several years, till the time when I was in high school. Here she had all of these diseases that she had been diagnosed with, was on all of these different medications, and it was really starting to affect our whole family. So you think of it, it was just my mom and dad and I, and so it affected what my mom could do on a daily basis. It affected what she could accomplish at work. She eventually had to go to more of a half-time type of a schedule because she needed to sleep every afternoon. She was just completely depleted. And it affected my dad and mom's relationship as well, because she wasn't able to do a lot. I mean, her life kind of revolved around doctor's appointments and when she took her medications and what different therapies she had going on and whatever. So by the time I was about 15, if I keep going back to that age, that was when my dad was probably talking about this quite a bit to his coworkers, and one of his coworkers said, "You really have to try this chiropractor that my wife has been helped by. She's got similar issues, you've got to go." And my dad thinks he's a genius at this point. He comes home and he's got the next greatest solution to my mom's health problems. And my mom said, "What, a chiropractor? Are you kidding? Why would I ever go to a chiropractor? I haven't been in a car accident. I don't have neck or back pain. Why would I ever go?" But as you can imagine, she was pretty desperate at that point as well. And so she decided to go. And so my mom started under chiropractic care. And the chiropractor did not just say, well, you can get adjusted. She did start getting adjusted right away. But then the chiropractor said, you need to change your diet. You need to work on your stress level. You need to start exercising. You need to go through a detoxification program. And what I can tell you is in that about the 3rd to 4th month, it was like seeing a huge transformation for my mom. So she started to get energy back. Before she even started seeing that chiropractor, it had gotten so bad that she had ulcers in her eyes. And she had ulcers in her feet, literally holes that wouldn't heal, because her body's ability to heal itself at that point was just nothing. I mean, nothing was really working at that point. And so it was like a miracle over the next 3 months of seeing huge changes. And my mom was so excited about it that at that point, then she said, well, we're all going to the chiropractor now. You know, I had no idea what was going on. I just remember being there and thinking, well, this is a really good place to be. People are happy, people are healthy, they seem excited to be here, and I felt really good. And so I thought that this is really cool. This is really cool being at a chiropractor's office. I still continue to go down the pre-med route. And I'll tell you, at that point, I still thought that, well, gee, this is just, it just confirmed my whole experience of, well, I just want to be a doctor because they help people. I didn't have any distinction between different types of doctors at that point. So when I went to college, I was a biology and anthropology major, and I'm thinking med school track. So I'm thinking I'm going to intern. I interned my summer of my sophomore year at a nursing home. When I was at that nursing home, I remember the routine. Has anyone ever spent any time at a nursing home, extensive time at a nursing home? What have you guys seen?
People who were in bed or confined all day.
Yes, yes. So I got into seeing that routine of, we go in, we pass out pills. People eat, or they sit and they stare at a TV, or they look out a window, and then they might eat again and they take their medication. And then they take their medication at the end of the day and they sit and look out a window. That was their day. What really bothered me was that my coworkers there were some people that were really nice, but a lot of them were overweight. They smoked on their breaks. They were eating horrible food. They didn't exercise. So here they're taking care of other people, but they're not taking care of themselves at all. And so what I learned at that point was that, gee, like, this is a very different experience than being at the chiropractor's office. I could see it like black and white. Totally different experience. And so I had one day in particular, which was my last day of being there, where there was a woman, and her name was Esther, and she literally spent her entire day, every day, staring out a window. And I sat, and I was with the RN who was handing out the medication, and I was just like, I don't want to be any part of this ever again. This is a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. And that was my defining moment, where I went back to school and I changed how all of my classes were aligned. I made sure that I would graduate that following year, and I started chiropractic school that following year. Because I just did not want to be a part of that at all. I did not want to be a part of that environment. It was really depressing. It was hard to be around. And I saw all of those poor people living in this world where literally it was just staring out a window. And so I decided at that point I wanted to be a part of the solution, which was, how are we going to help people prevent major issues? How are we going to help them prevent major disease process? And so I went through chiropractic school. I loved it. I found my passion. I love being a chiropractor. Scott and I have been in practice for the last 10 years, and we get to see really good healing experiences for people every single day. We get to see miracles every single day. But another defining moment for me was last year. We had one of our first 8 weeks to wellness clients that ever went through the process. Her name was Shelly. And Shelly had some really serious health issues. She didn't know it at the time. We did her blood work, and we found out that she was diabetic. We found out that she had high cholesterol. We found out that she had really high inflammation, really high homocysteine within her body. And so she started the 8 weeks to wellness program, and when she started, she also had fibromyalgia. She could hardly walk up her stairs when she started chiropractic care. She started the chiropractic care. She was walking. She was moving again. That in itself was a miracle. Then we did her blood work. We found out all of these other issues. And what I can remember about Shelly, and you'll see we've got her poster around the office, is that she had really long hair that always was kind of covering her face. She kind of poor self-esteem. She had been beaten down in life, just seemed really depressed. And one day she came in and she was about halfway through the 8 Weeks to Wellness program. And she had lost about 15 pounds at that point. Her coloring looked different. And she had went and she had cut off her hair and she donated it to Locks of Love. And it was like Oprah. This is like the Oprah story. Like she's glowing. She's got this beautiful haircut. She went and bought new clothes. And you could totally see the life just radiating out from her. And that was my defining moment where really it went from being chiropractic as a profession to really being a mission. And so when I share this information to you tonight, detox is a really critical component of the whole picture. And it's part of what I'm really passionate about. And that's why. As you see all of these people's stories as we've gone through this, from my mom's story to what really motivated me to what we're going to talk about tonight, all of these processes, that's why we do what we do. And so when we describe the detox process, I want you to think about this and why would you want to create this change for yourself? Because when we talk about detox, it's not always easy. I'm going to give you a lot of the scientific kind of information, the biological information about it. So get that information, but in order to commit to any kind of process, you have to have a really good why. So let's go through that tonight and what we're going to talk about. I'm going to hand out 2 things, and so don't get too caught up in them right away. But one is going to be the program guide, and I really apologize because our information, here, just take one of these, Carrie, and I'm going to give you a second one as you pass them around. All of our posters said 7-day, and I didn't catch it. It's a 10-day process, so just know that 3 days extra. The last 3 days are actually pretty easy. So when we go through this information, just know that it shifts a little bit. What have you guys heard about detox? I know, the sun is like right in your, I promise it will move.
That was a nice clap.
Yeah. What have you guys heard about detox? Vicky? Yeah, I kind of heard a sigh from somewhere in the audience, like it didn't sound really that way.
It involves eliminating things.
Yes. It does involve eliminating things. Okay, you are right on in that one.
I've also heard you can use this very close to your bathroom, and it's a total cleanse.
Okay.
And drains your system.
Yes.
And all this.
Okay. I'm really glad that you brought that up because that is what most people traditionally think of as a detox, is that you have to avoid all food. Maybe you're just going to drink juice for several days. I'm going to go through the myths of why we don't promote that. I mean, it's not terrible to do a juice fast or do a fast like that one day every couple months. That's not a horrible thing to do. But we don't want to do extensive time periods like that. So before I knew any better, I did a 7-day fast. I could hardly walk by the end of it. I couldn't function, I couldn't think. When I started eating food again, I threw up. It was just bad. I don't want anyone to go through that type of an experience because most of us have jobs, we have lives, we have things that we need to show up for. And so we want a detox process to be something that you can live through and be able to function and carry on with the things that you need to do in your life. So this was more of the type of work that my mom had done that really made a difference for her in shifting her autoimmune issues along with everything else she had to change in her lifestyle. So when we go through this information, the first question I can ask you is, do you think you're toxic?
I've heard that.
Yes.
You've heard that. Okay. Most of us do have pretty high levels of toxicity just because of the environment that we live in. So the things that I want you to think about, and here it just shows, okay, so here's a research from the CDC. They tested 212 chemicals and found all of those 212 chemicals to be in the blood and the urine of most Americans. So again, it's not a question of are you toxic, it's a question of how toxic are you. And so I will go through this, but we're exposed to things all the time. Even if you think of driving down the road, if you're driving down Colfax and a car's right in front of you and all of that exhaust is blowing into your car, your body has to deal with that. When you drive by a field and they're spraying it with pesticides, your body has to process that. You're going to be inhaling that. So all of these things get stored if they're not able to be processed by our body. Where do you think they get stored if we can't process it? Where do they get stored?
Store your fat cells.
Exactly. They get stored in our fat cells. And so one of the reasons, and there's probably slides on this, and I'll just go into it though, one of the reasons why we really promote detox is because if you have fat in your body that is really stubborn, usually the reason why it's stubborn, even if you're exercising and eating the right foods and you're doing all the right things, you're drinking plenty of water, but maybe the reason that it's not going away is because your body has toxicity hidden within that fat. And so if your body has a lot of that toxicity within the fat, it doesn't want to get rid of that fat. It wants to hold on to it. Because if it has to get rid of it, you're going to dump those toxins into the system. So if your body is not well supported to handle the toxicity, what happens? You get sick. And if you get sick, do you feel like, oh wow, I'm just going to eat kale and spinach today?
No.
Probably not. Probably not. Probably going to crave fat, actually, is what people will crave, is like things like potato chips, because it will absorb the toxicity that's in the bloodstream. So when we look at this and we go into this information more, know this, certain people need detox more than others. So as much as I need detox, most of you have met my husband, Dr. Scott, he needs constant detox. So when you think about different people's health and their genetic factors, we all have different levels of our abilities to detox. So you can look at that genetically. Like Scott has actually had genetic tests so that he can see what his detox pathways, which ones work effectively in his body and which ones don't. We know that there are certain ones that don't, so nutritionally he needs to support those at all times. So he's always detoxing. I do detoxes probably about 3 or 4 times a year. So I will select more of like a week and I'll do a detox. And then I'll go and I'll select another, like a 7 to 10 day time period and do a detox. So everybody's a little bit different. But if you've never detoxed before or never done any detox support, we can almost guarantee, just based on the environment that we live in, that we're probably going to have some form of toxicity. So it just depends on how much. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so genetic is a big one, how we live, what kind of water we drink, where we grew up. So I've got a list of questions that I want you to think about. So think about my mom with all of those autoimmune conditions. She grew up in the farm country in northern Minnesota where they used heavy pesticides for years, and she was exposed to all of it. Is that the only cause of it? We don't know, but it doesn't help. So we look at that. So I want you to think about where you grew up, especially if you grew up around farm country. That's going to definitely have an aspect where you need to think about the detoxification program. What type of work have you done or do you do? So I think about, I'm sure because we're in Golden, we work with a lot of engineers, we work with a lot of people who are geologists, and they work out in the fields. A lot of people that work in oil and gas, they're in the fields. I mean, they're exposed to chemicals all the time. So again, do they need to detox? Probably. They probably need to do fairly consistent support for their body's ability to detox. And so again, have you ever done that in the past? So when you look at this, I've handed out a detox questionnaire, and I can hand out pens to anyone who actually just wants to get it done, or you can do it at the end of the class. But what you're going to look at is common symptoms that people deal with when they're dealing with a detoxification issue. So really common issues that are actually even clinically studied for detoxification. One is fibromyalgia. So that patient, Shelly, that I told you about that started 8 Weeks to Wellness, when we did her 8 Weeks to Wellness program, she actually started with a detox because she desperately needed that. But she had, that was in her history, we definitely needed to support her with detox. So she used, actually, in the beginning of her 8 Weeks to Wellness program, she used a lot of the products that we're going to talk about today. But if you feel really achy, or if you have neurological issues, if you have trouble thinking, if you have trouble concentrating, that can be a detoxification issue. If you just feel tired all the time, you definitely need to do a detox. It's a great place to start. Food allergies or chemical sensitivities, people whose livers, and we're going to talk about the organs involved with detox, but people's, if their liver and their kidneys have been really overburdened, they're going to feel tired all the time. Their energy is definitely going to be affected. So again, detox. So you look at these symptoms, are those making sense to you in terms of how that would affect someone's body? Okay, and why detox would be something that we would look at is always one of the first things that we can actually do. So one of the things I promote for everyone is not just thinking about doing a detox a couple times a year. Let's look at your environment. Let's look at what you're exposing yourself to on a daily basis. We can't control everything. We can't control the car that drives by our house and puts pollution in our air. We can't control that. But what we can control is the type of products that we use. So if you think about what kind of household cleaners you choose, what types of shampoo or conditioner that you choose, what are you putting on your face, what kind of makeup do you use? Do you use like nail polishes? You can buy nail polishes that have a lot lower chemical load. Like at Natural Grocers or Whole Foods, you can find stuff out there. So I'm not saying that you can never paint your nails and you can't wear makeup and you have to live like out in the mountains in a little shack. I'm not saying that. This is real life stuff, but you can choose based on, you can look at the chemical load of what's in the products that you're using. Like at our house, we just don't use dryer sheets. If you really like dryer sheets, then buy dryer sheets that have a lower chemical load. So you've got lots of different options here. I would definitely look at if you have city water, or even just pretty much all water sources out there have some contaminants in them. But if you're using especially city water, I would make sure that you've got some type of a filter on your shower head. Because think of how much water you are exposed to just by taking a shower. It's a lot. And so usually it's so full of chlorine, it can be full of, in the different water sources, heavy metals might not be totally out of the system, but just having a filter on your shower head can make a difference and reduce your chlorine exposure. Does anyone know when you have high chlorine exposure, what organ system or what organ that specifically will weaken? Thyroid. So many of us have thyroid issues or thyroid issues running in our family, so you want to be aware of that. Gee, I don't need this, I want to be paying attention to my chlorine exposure. You can look at that for kids who swim. They've done some research studies with that about really heavy swimmers that end up with or have much more likely to develop thyroid issues later in life. So chlorine, hopefully it's not used in as many pools anymore as it used to be. So the other one that finally has been picked up by by most more of your commercial types of products, but when you think about the shampoos that you buy, do you see that now? Even like if you buy shampoo at Target, most of them will say, or they're trying to say now, paraben or phthalate free. So they're becoming more conscious of putting those types of chemicals in products, but still read the label. I love the ones that say paraben free, and you look at the label though, and it's like filled with 5 million other chemicals.
Yeah.
So I would say, just again, be conscious of what you're using, be conscious of what you're putting on your body. And if anyone wants it, I can bring it in. I actually make my own lotion, and I use it. I don't use it before I go to work because I look like greaseball. But it's made out of, it's a coconut oil and olive oil based. And you can put essential oils in it, and it takes probably about 5 minutes to make on your stove, and then you just let it cool in the fridge, and you got it. It's really simple. So if you want that recipe, let me know. I won't push it on you if you're not ready to be making your own lotion. Okay, we'll bring it in. We'll bring it in so you guys have it. We'll have it here if anyone wants to try that. So, and then you want to think about what you put in your body. So to go back to my mom's case and thinking about her, she can't have gluten, she can't have dairy, she can't have soy, she can't have some types of nuts, but making those changes in her diet was life-changing. It reduced the amount of inflammation in her body tremendously, to the point where between all of the lifestyle factors that she does, she went from being on about 10 different medications to 2. So it was worth it to her. But I want you to really think about every choice that you make. So if you have the choice and you could go to Mod Market versus Burger King, what do you choose?
Mod Market.
Mod Market. If I quiz you some, I know these are hard choices in life, but we have to have a strong why of why we're going to do this. So if you had the choice to go to Jason's Deli and make a salad versus driving through McDonald's, you're going to choose Jason's Deli, I hope. But I mean, you have to start thinking about where you can make the meals that you really want and what's going to fuel your body appropriately. So in the choice of just being in the supermarket and what you're going to choose there, so if we have the choice, we were going to buy organic eggs. Even probably more importantly right now than organic, we're going to look for free range. Does anyone know, it's really sad about free range, so that they can qualify as free range? So they just have like a small cage that they can run around. They can. So you want to look for one that's like, can they be in a pasture, or where can they actually be? So you really, it's a hard environment to live in right now. I don't want to overwhelm anyone. All I'm going to say is you want to do the best you can. We're not ever going to be perfect, but you want to do the best you can. So if you could choose free-range organic eggs, do it. Most importantly, if you are going to eat dairy, you want to choose antibiotic-free dairy. So we don't want to have antibiotics added to our dairy sources. If you're going to eat fish, this is really key. If you're going to eat fish, you have to choose. You have to choose your. What am I trying to say? Not your farm-raised. What am I looking for?
Wild caught.
Thank you. Wild caught. You have to choose wild caught. So I was really fooled by this. So at Costco they had fresh, wild. I think it was cotton that we were buying, but it was like fresh and wild. And I was in a hurry, and Logan was crying, and I just grabbed it. I got home and realized really fine print, farm raised.
Yeah.
So they're using those words of wild, but they're not using wild caught. So you really have to look at your, exactly what the label says. But it's really important. Does anyone know why that's so important?
Because they feed antibiotics to the fish.
Exactly. Antibiotics, GMO food, higher in mercury, higher in PCBs. So you're eating so many contaminants right there. So what they showed was that you could safely have farm-raised fish one time a month because of the high mercury content. Where you could eat wild-caught fish just about every night. I know, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking, what's in my freezer? Oh no.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm really so again, we're going to do the best we can to make better choices in the future. Eat as much organic produce. I've got another slide on that we'll go over. And then you just want to wash your food really well because it is being sprayed, and a lot of it's being sprayed. So this is your top 12, or they call these the dirty dozen. I don't have a handout on this, but I can get you guys one if anyone needs it. I can get it for you. But if you even Google this, you're going to find it, what the dirty dozen are for fruits and vegetables. These are the ones that you have to buy organic, because if you don't, they're being sprayed heavily. So they have a very high chemical load with this group. So any questions on that one? Patients ask me all the time, do I have to buy organic? Because I know it's more expensive. These you have to buy organic. Okay? So if you need that slide, let me know. These are the ones that are, if you really don't want to buy organic, these are the ones that are safer to eat if they're conventionally grown. And think of that, most of those have a thicker skin,
right.
And that's what you're looking for, is that they're more protected from the amount of insecticide. I'm just get on that. Hold on a minute. It's gonna give me a water break. Any questions on those?
Why would sweet potatoes be different than potatoes?
I don't know. I'm wondering that myself. I don't know if it's the type of like what they're using or how it's grown. I don't know.
What if you eat the skin? The skin on them.
Good. So take the skin off.
Take the skin off.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Or buy organic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, it's a fascinating conversation because most of, again, my mom's side of the family are farmers in northern Minnesota, and if you even talk to them about organic farming, oh my gosh, you don't even go there. So we just don't talk about those things, but yes.
But how do you keep organic from not spoiling as fast? That's the biggest
I
thing.
know.
I don't mind buying it, but I can't usually consume it fast enough, and then I end up losing it.
I know.
So I don't just wondered if you had any.
Try to eat it as fast as you can.
Okay.
Dave, you gotta help out in eating it.
It's not a crime if food spoils.
I'm in
Yes, it
McDonald's.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put it in
But it is, it's not an easy, I mean, I think, in our household, we only get to the grocery store once a week. And so we have to work really hard. I mean, I keep rotating things to the front so you can see, but it's not easy. Onions, I have a lot more luck with, organic onions and those types of things, but cucumbers, berries.
Berries.
Yes.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah, I have to be very conscious of them to make, and the other thing I can say that I think really helps, and we talk about this at our other nutrition classes, but if you, like for us Sunday evenings when we're making dinner, we cut up tons of vegetables, And it's just easier, you see them, you're aware of them, and we're more likely to use them. And so that's what really will help us, just they get eaten most of the time. And Scott eats a lot, even though he doesn't look like he does, he eats a lot. So we go through a lot of food at our house. Okay. So what I will talk about is the process of metabolic detoxification. So what we have talked about is decreasing the load. We got to decrease the load for the body. Other part is what can we do to enhance our body's own natural process of detoxification. So that's the next part of it. So the key, and you'll see this, is doing both at the same time. So if you're decreasing the load, and I'm going to talk about other strategies for doing that, and then we're going to upregulate or increase our body's own natural ability to detox. So I will go through this now. There's two main organ systems that your body uses for detox, but there's many others involved. So what do you guys think? When you think about detox, what are the organs in our body that we would use for detox?
Kidneys?
Kidneys, for sure.
Skin?
Skin, yes. Liver. And intestines. So your whole digestive tract is going to be used for detox. So when you look at that, your liver is the number one thing that we're really going to talk about. Kidneys are definitely involved. Your skin, you should be detoxing from your skin all the time. And what I mean by that is that if you sweat, that's a good thing. So when you think about it, like I know if I haven't exercised for a while and I start exercising again, I don't sweat a lot. And then as I get more into my exercise routine, I'm like dripping. So what's happening is the more and more you get into that and the better your body gets at it, it's naturally detoxing itself and it's upregulating, is a good way to say it, the detoxification process. So sweat is okay. Be okay with being sweaty every once in a while. It's really a good thing. You want to be getting as much out of your system as you can. So, but your organs, your digestion has to be working well in order for you to detox. So the thing is always my kind of pre-qualifier for working with someone on a detox program is, do you poop? Because if you don't poop and we put you on a detox program, what's going to happen?
It's just going to build up.
You're going to get really sick. You can't get rid of what your body needs to get rid of. So that's always the first step, and you're going to see that's why we have modified over the years. When I was doing detox programs with people, we found that they were getting constipated. We can't have that happen. So that's why Colonex is part of our detoxification program, because we want to keep everything moving through the digestive tract efficiently. Really, really key. So what you're seeing up here is a picture of the liver, and there's two, and I'm going to describe this, and I'm going to really try to I'm going to break it down. But I just want you to understand what your body has to do in order to go through any kind of a detoxification process. But in the liver, there's two phases of detoxification that have to happen. One is called phase 1, the other one is called phase 2. And what I'm going to describe about this is why it's so important to not do extended fasts. So what I'm saying is if you don't eat for 7 days and you just drink water, and why people get so sick when they do that, I'm going to explain exactly why that is. So if we go through this and we look at it. So phase 1, what your body has to do in phase 1, and this happens in the liver, it has to take whatever food particle is that you consumed, and it has to convert it to what's called a free radical. We've all heard about free radicals. If you've got a lot of free radicals in your system, what can happen? You can't clear free radicals. You can get cancer. As free radicals attack cells, they do damage to our cells. Antioxidants are what combat free radicals, and they help neutralize them. So that's why we like to eat lots of things like berries and greens, things high in antioxidants to help us with free radicals. But realize that your body makes this free radical as a part of the process of its own detoxification. What will help it get through phase 1 to phase 2 with not having a lot of free radicals in the system is protein. So now imagine this, that you are only juicing for 7 days. Are you consuming any protein? Well, yeah, you're getting some plant protein, but you're right, but you're not getting a high amount of protein in that point. And so that's where the sickness comes in, because the free radicals are being released in the system. They can't get to phase 2, and people feel sick. They're very tired, very weak, because their cells literally don't have the nutrients that they need. So protein is what helps it get through phase 1 to phase 2 in the liver. Phase 2 now is when they use, so at this point they use actually to take the free radical to something that's water soluble. And what happens, what do they use for that? What does the body use for that? Antioxidants. So what are the 2 keys, if you learned, if that makes sense, what would be the 2 keys in going through detoxification? Protein and antioxidants. The 2 things your body needs to effectively get through. So when we look for this and we go through this process, there's one other thing I want to see though to make it even better. And that is that we need to get it through the kidneys. So if someone's kidneys aren't working very efficiently, think of the worst case scenario when if they're having a lot of kidney issues, what happens? You go into dialysis. And the dialysis is what artificially works the kidneys to clean out the blood. So with the kidneys, we need the kidneys to be working really well, because now if we go through the liver, now that all of that toxicity is now water soluble. And if it's water soluble, it can get through the kidneys. We need our kidneys to be working really well. And so in order for kidneys to be working well, we want to stay slightly more on the alkaline side versus being on the acidic side. So our bodies all we talked about pH. Remember from chemistry and elementary school, we had the pH strips. And I mean, you can literally test your own pH through your saliva or your urine, and it's not the most accurate way to do it, but it still gives you an idea of where you're at. But you can test if you're more acidic or more alkaline. One of the issues, again, if we're looking at detoxification for losing weight or just for overall health, is that we want to be more on the alkaline side to lose weight. If we're very acidic, our body holds on to fat. So when you think about that and that process, what foods or what can you do to make your body more alkaline? Any idea?
Fermented foods.
You know what? I'm actually not sure if fermented foods. That's a really good question.
Greens.
I will look in that. Greens are a really good one. We should look into fermented. Dairy is actually, so if they're dairy based, no, but if they're more vegetable based, yeah, you're right, totally. They're more vegetable based, yes. But what I'm really aiming for people to do is do a lot of greens, because that's going to really push you to be more on the alkaline side. If you eat way too much protein, you're going to be more on the acidic side. It's a very fine balance, but the more vegetables you eat, typically you're going to be on the more alkaline side. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's part of it. So here's what you look at the whole process. So if someone is really strong in phase 1 of detoxification, but they don't have good phase 2 detoxification, that's where they get really sick. Their body becomes very toxic. They feel very fatigued. They'd be a candidate for developing cancer right there. If they can get through phase 2, if they have really strong phase 2, then it's getting through the kidneys, but maybe the liver isn't working well. We need the whole thing to be able to work well in order to truly detoxify our bodies. So is that process making sense? You don't have to memorize it, I promise. You don't have to memorize the graph or anything like that. But that's the process. So that's why it's so important. If you're if you want to juice for a day, great. But I don't want you doing a lot longer than that, because we need the protein and antioxidants from lots of greens, from lots of vegetables, from good sources, healthy sources of clean protein to be able to get through that process. Okay. So nutrient-based is really key. And that's why we teach teach detoxification the way that we do it. So when you look at it, and I'll describe really how our detoxification program works, but the other thing that has been added to the type of products that we use is something, when we look at the combination of nutrients, it upregulates, again, it helps your body make more of its own substance called metallothionein. And what metallothionein does is it actually helps your body excrete heavy metals. So sometimes when people are doing this process, if you're thinking of doing this, just so you know, some people will taste heavy metals. And they're usually people who've been exposed to heavy metals throughout their lives, whether it was part of the work that they did or the environment they lived in or whatever it was. So we want to make sure that, again, you're drinking lots of water, that your body's able to really, you're pooping. I'd like to get to know you really well when we do this process, but I want to make sure that everything's working well so you can get rid of it. But that's the other component. So when you think about all of these different pieces of detoxification, we need protein, we need antioxidants, we help your body get rid of or make more metallothionein, and we want to make you more alkaline. Those are the keys in the whole process to keep everything moving. So if you look at the process that we use, these are some of the benefits of it, and I'm going to describe. So feeling obviously better. I want you to have, if you decide to go through a detoxification process, I will tell you this. I would say probably day 3 to day 4 are the hardest. So usually the first couple days people feel pretty good. Now this can change if you're cutting out caffeine. So usually the second, third day isn't so fun if you're cutting out caffeine. But usually like day 3 or day 4, people might feel a little bit tired, run down. And the rest of the program, they feel great. It starts to shift around, they start to feel really good and more energetic. They start to lose belly weight. But again, now I'm going to describe how you need to eat to get that result, but it all starts to work together. Foggy-headed, foggy-headedness, brain fog, excuse me, is a really big one that I want you guys to think about and evaluate for yourself. Is that something that you deal with? Because that can be very dietary related and can be, again, chemically related based on what your body's dealing with. I want you to be less dependent on coffee to wake up in the morning. So if you feel like you need caffeine to even be able to think in the morning, we want you to be able to get off of that. Have fewer sugar cravings. I have a lot of people that enter into a detoxification program just because they're tired of craving sugar. And it's one of the best ways to get rid of your cravings for sugar. It's a 10-day process, so it really starts to shift dietary factors and really change your energy levels so you're not craving it. So the thing that I want to see as well is when you think about, if you're doing this for thinking of losing stubborn weight, think about what most weight loss programs do. So if you cut calories, like what most programs do, what kind of weight do you typically lose? Water and muscle, yeah. And so I want you to lose fat. Excuse me. So what we do in that process is when you start the detoxification program, we actually do something called a bioelectrical impedance analysis test that measures your body fat and that measures your muscle mass. So we know exactly where you're at when you start this program. It looks at your weight and we do your measurement. So those of you who've done AB Wellness, you're familiar with that because you've had that test done throughout the program. So when we get those measurements, we know, okay, this is where we're at. We have this much body fat percentage and this is what we want to change. We start on the program. We want everything to go very smoothly, so I'll go through the manual so you know what I'm talking about. And then at the end of that program, we're going to do another BIA so we can see. We want to literally see at that point that you have lost body fat and gained muscle. That's what we're looking for. And that's, again, when you're doing a well-supported detoxification process. We want you to be able to actually lose fat. So again, look at that list. These are things that we're trying to prevent by doing detoxification. The one, when we work with Metagenics products, primarily in the office, not totally, but this one it's FDA proven. I don't know if FDA is probably not my favorite organization in the world, but they do have pretty high clinical standards. And so when you look at this, this product has been tested by the FDA and been shown to reduce chemical toxicity in the system. But what it was actually tested, what the research showed was that it reduced fibromyalgia issues tremendously. So chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia are big ones on the top of the list. But any questions about how toxicity is related to these issues at all? The thing that I want you to think about with the brain is that what is your brain made out of? Fat. Basically it's like a lot of fatty tissue. So that is why it has such a high ability to absorb toxicity right there. So when you think about that, that's why there's so many neurological issues. Detox is where we would start. So I'm going to go through the program guide, and everybody's got a program guide, so you know, and you can decide if this is something that it feels right for you. And then you also have the detoxification questionnaire. So when you fill out the detoxification questionnaire, if you score a 9 or under in any section, or it says, you know, right here, so if you have 50, under 50 is the grand total, you're mild. So you could probably do a 10-day detox. I have some patients who we do a 30-day detox because they have a lot more symptoms. So, but most people, will have them start at a 10-day. If they've got too much going on and we try to do a 10-day, it can be too intense for them. So that's where we can talk about it with each patient, to figure out what's going on and what's the best plan of action for that person. So let's go over the program guide. The first thing that is in this program guide is I want you to set some goals. Is it that you want more energy? Is it that you're trying to prevent disease? Is it that, for me, I mean, I've got so much autoimmune issues in my family that for me it's something that I need to be very conscious of. So I'm pretty consistent with detox support, or actually doing a detox at least 3 times a year. So look at that list, and I want you to think of, what is your goal going to be? And following through with this. Then you're going to see we're going to collect this data to get your weight and your waist measurements, your hip measurements. We're going to do your medical symptom questionnaire so we know exactly what kind of symptoms you're dealing with, what body organ systems have been dealing with that. And then as you start the program, this is what it's going to look like. So again, I think it was Dana that said eliminate. If you think about eliminating. Okay, so what do we need to eliminate? We're going to eliminate the most common food allergen producing foods for people. What are those? Anybody know?
Dairy, eggs, coffee.
Yeah. You can do some coffee if you just have, but 1 cup. Just 1 cup.
Depends on how bad you want it.
That's right. Gluten, dairy, eggs. So you can see, you can do egg whites in here, but not egg yolks. We eliminate red meat, pork, so your more processed meats. We definitely do not do alcohol. You're going to detoxify the liver while you're doing a cleanse. Probably not the best idea. You want to definitely avoid any kind of artificial sweeteners. Why? Artificial sweeteners make us really acidic. They kill off good gut bacteria, so they're going to affect our digestion.
Does that include stevia?
No, it does not. You can do stevia. And you know what, and it's even on here. I think we modified that because that's a really good question, Casey, because we were getting it all the time. Is can you do stevia? Yes, you can do stevia. You can do very small amounts of honey, but that's about it. I would prefer it if you tried to go cold turkey on any kind of sweetener at all, even stevia. And the reason I say that is because anytime you consume something sweet, even if it's stevia, it sends a message to the brain of, I want more sugar, I want more sweet. So that's where, if you can avoid it, you're just going to make your day so much easier. Not the first 3 days, but after that, you're going to feel great without the sugar. And you're not even going to crave it anymore. So I would rather have you do just cold turkey on the sugar because you're going to be well supported with these products. So they're giving you tons of nutrients and fulfilling the need for snacking and really starting to change that habit in the beginning of the process. We want you to avoid flour and wheat products. You're going to see that they're, I personally will push you to do gluten-free if you can. But if you're really resistant on that and you need some oatmeal in the morning or something like that, you can do it. But if you feel like you're really dealing with some severe issues, I'm going to push you to go gluten-free. Again, I'm not trying to overwhelm anyone, but if you can do it, we're going to try to go that direction. We want to avoid dairy products. So why would I want you to avoid dairy products? Builds mucus in the system, really hard on the liver. So I have you avoid dairy, and I'll give you some options that you can use instead. We're going to have you avoid caffeine, except if you have to have some form of caffeine, you can have 1 cup of coffee in the morning, but really try to cut down on caffeinated beverages. Peanuts and peanut butter. Anybody know why? I get this question every time we do the class. Why would you avoid peanut butter?
Bacteria in it.
Lots of bacteria, lots of mold, aflatoxins. They look at how toxic. It's sad, but I mean, so if you have to have peanut butter, I would say buy organic peanut butter. But if let's switch over to something like almond butter or sunflower seed butter or something else instead of the peanut butter, and then soy products. And if you have to have a few soy products here and there, at least make sure that they're non-GMO. So how are you guys doing on this description? Anybody, are you guys doing okay? Overwhelmed? Okay, so what you do get to eat, let's go over that because it's a lot more fun. You get to eat egg whites, you get to eat hopefully organic fish, or not, or at least wild caught fish, chicken, turkey, organic. As many vegetables as you could possibly eat. So if you are hungry, carry around a bag of carrots and cut up cucumber slices and slices of zucchini or fresh mushrooms or something. I mean, just vegetables, unlimited, whatever you want to do. Rice and products made from rice, you can do those. Oats, buckwheat, quinoa. So you've got some grains if you choose to do some grains, gluten-free products, but be careful of gluten-free products. I mean, you can do gluten-free, but you can do a gluten-free cinnamon roll. So when I say gluten-free products, I still want you to be conscious of what kind of gluten-free products you're actually going to do. Not the Udi's gluten-free cinnamon rolls. That's a treat for Christmas or something. I don't know, but not for this. Rice and almond milk. So you could choose those. You could do coconut milk as well. Plain yogurt, plain Greek yogurt. So if you have to have some dairy, that's your dairy right there. You could do cottage cheese. I would really rather you not, but if you have to have some dairy, that's your safest form. Almonds, walnuts, cashews, and pecans. So any kind of nut butter, if you would like one of those are the choices that I would like you to choose in that time period. Sunflower seed butter is what we use at our house all the time. I want you to drink a minimum of 8 glasses of water, but for some people that's not enough. So really my rule of thumb that you guys have heard many times before is half your body weight in ounces of water, and that's really the minimum amount that I want you drinking during this process. So notice that if you don't drink that, you're probably going to feel really thirsty, and you're probably going to, I should say that, you're not even just going to be thirsty, you'll probably feel ill. Because again, your body's trying to get rid of toxins. If you're not feeding it things that are helping it excrete, you've got a problem. You can use things like Pellegrino or LaCroix if you have to. For flavor, you can use things like that or herbal teas, and then limited amounts of stevia or honey. So questions on that at all? No? So we'll talk about what this looks like in practice. So your first day, this is your day that you're going light on food, but you're still going to have nutrients. So day one, the first thing you're going to do when you get up is you're going to have, you can have pomegranate or prune juice. I just say mix it with water, but this is honestly one of my best friends in life. So this is kind of addictive after a while, but Colinix, it's a fiber supplement, but it's full of other herbs like the uga ursi, peppermint, alfalfa, garum, rhubarb root, but it's not a laxative, but it is a fiber supplement, and it's very soothing and healing to the gut. So this is what you start your day off with. So if you don't go to the bathroom right away, you should go to the bathroom after taking this. So that's the first thing that you're going to do, and then you're also going to take your probiotic. So even if I could do it perfectly, I would say get up. First thing I do is I run to the fridge and I grab my probiotic and I take it. And then I might take a shower, get started getting ready for the day, and then I take the Colinix. So this makes it a little bit easier in this layout, but you can read the directions.
For the probiotic, you
Yes.
said get it out of the fridge right away.
Yes.
So is it just for like traveling purposes? Can you have it out of the fridge?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You don't want to store it like, say you were out, like your suitcase was out in the sun for 3 hours. That wouldn't be good.
Okay.
You don't want it to get really hot for an extended time period. So if like you were on a plane, you want to keep it like in your carry-on and keep it cooler.
So backpacking for 12 days, probably not.
I would keep it in the shade as much as you can.
Okay.
This one in particular has been shown to be okay for up to at least 45 plus days
Okay.
unrefrigerated. But I didn't have it, just keeping it in the fridge. So, but you are safe if you can't have it completely chilled. Does that make sense? Okay. The other supplement that you take is an Advocare. Advocare is full of antioxidants because remember, what do antioxidants support? These two. So that's really helpful in that process. So we get extra antioxidants through that. And then the other thing that you're eating becomes your best friend, which is Ultra Clear Renew, which I laugh at this because I've done this cleanse so many times, and it's not my favorite, but I can do it. And so we also have given you some recipes for flavoring Ultra Clear Renew if you need it, with things like vanilla extract or hazelnut extract. But literally for 10 days, not bad. And they started making it in peach. So you can buy a peach flavor now of Ultra Clear Renew. So I laugh at this, but really it's a good thing. So, but you have your shaker cup, and so you shake that up and you drink it. That is that's like a meal replacement right there. So you feel satisfied. I know, I'm sorry, David. Laugh though, it's good to laugh through the process. It's good to detox your emotions there. So you can do that. So that's your main source of food. Other than that, I have people that will actually just sip on like vegetable juice, or they'll make a chicken broth or something like that, and they'll just literally just sip on that throughout the day. So you're getting nutrients. What that day is designed to do is to lighten the load in the digestive tract so that it can heal. Just one day. And then after that, this is when you get in. So you start to eat normally again. Normally I say based on your elimination diet, but you start to eat normally day 2 through 10. And so in that detoxification process, that's when you're going to be eating consistently throughout the day. You're taking your supplements, you're taking your Ultra Clear Renew in between meals. But your goal is to eat lots of greens, lots of vegetables. Really think about all the foods that are helping to support this process as well. Does it sound that bad? It's not that bad. So 10 days. And so usually I would say by about day, 5, people are feeling great. But what that does is it resets cravings. It gets rid of, you're getting out most of the major food allergens out of your diet. So I will say this, if you are concerned that you have a dairy allergy or gluten allergy or soy allergy, I want you to completely avoid that food during this time period. Because if you're dealing with a chronic allergen within your system, your liver has to process that, and your liver will overwork due to that. So we want to cut that out. So it really is a way to reset any type of eating pattern that someone has that they want to change. Okay, let's see if I have any other slides here to go through. So don't be that man drinking the coffee. This is just a good question. This was a good tip that the company gave us. For a while they were having people, you should be able to do your whole program in one container of Ultra Clear Renew. But they had some people that were just literally, were out by just one scoop. And so they ran out just by one scoop. And so what they found is that people really just level it out, have it be a perfect scoop. Don't overscoop. I'll ask you, are you overscooping, Dave?
No.
No. Most people won't. So, and again, I'm gonna get to know your habits pretty well here. But I'm gonna be asking you, making sure that you're going to the bathroom, because it is very essential. We want to keep everything moving very well. Preferable to drink half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Eat plenty of the good foods. So if you're feeling hungry, I don't want you to ever really feel hungry on this. So I'll rotate vegetables. Like for a while I'll be really into like mini bell peppers. And then I'll really like cucumbers. And then I'll really like carrots. But just keep rotating different vegetables. Or I think as a team here and our staff, we all love roasted vegetables. So we'll roast I think all of us will roast pans of, carrots and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes or whatever. So just that makes vegetables taste like candy. Really, they taste like candy. They're so good. You can add salt and pepper or Italian seasoning, but really like roasting vegetables, especially with our a little bit cooler summer, could be a really good thing to do. What am I missing? Other things that I really recommend that I think you should think about in your daily routine of detoxification are work on your stress relief. So something like meditation, start putting it into your day. What can you really do to help with that? You want to think about, for At Least to Wellness, we recommend at least 10 minutes of meditation a day is becoming a habit. You can do more than that, I highly suggest it, but some people can't. So I want you to think about deep breathing. Breathing is a form of detoxification. You want to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay? So think of one of the best ways to do it is 4-7-8 breathing. So you take you count to 4 on the inhalation, You hold it for 7 seconds or count to 7, and then you exhale for 8. That's hard for me to remember sometimes if I'm in the car for whatever reason, so I do 5, 5, 5. I breathe in for 5, I hold it for 5, I let go for 5. But it's easy. But deep breathing is that's another form of detoxifying the system. Skin brushing, and I found a picture today online of a skin brush because people ask me every time I do the class, what is a skin brush? So I'll show you what that looks like. Your adjustments. Every time you get an adjustment, every time you get a massage, detoxifying the body. It's another way. It's another support for the system. Now, if you're getting an adjustment and then you go eat McDonald's, it's probably going to cancel each other out for the detox effect. You want to think about that. So again, we want to eat cleanly in the whole process. And then ask questions. I want you to be really communicating well with us as you're going through this process. I want to know what you're experiencing, what's happening with your body. If you're feeling like you're leaning towards the edge of constipation, I need to know about it. We need to know what's happening. That should not happen with the way we have the program designed for you. But again, everyone's different, and so I need you to be asking questions and letting me know what's going on. This is a picture of a skin brush. Can you guys see that? Okay, yes. So a skin brush is a really hard bristled brush. I always forget to bring mine on this day. But what you do is if you start on the bottom, you're stimulating the lymph system, the lymph drainage system of your body, which is great that's what moves toxins in the system. So you start with a skin brush on the bottom, like by your feet, and you go in circular motions up the extremities. So you start maybe on the ankles, you go towards your hips, then you could start on the shoulders and go towards your hands, but you're going to work everything towards the center. Sound easy enough? I love to do it right before I shower. And it gets the blood flow. It just makes everything feel really good and tingly when you get in the shower. But another great way to move the lymph system. Questions on that at all? Those are just things that you can easily work into normal everyday kind of life. Stress relief is huge. Okay. So again, I want you to think about if you want to commit to this program and you want to do a 10-day detoxification program, you want to think about what your why is. I'm going to show you this one. Some of our ABC Wellness people who've been to orientations have seen this, but every time I see it, if I can find it here, I think it's one of the best things that any of us could even think about, is a why. You guys hear this okay?
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
So I show that video as hard as it is to watch because it's so the truth of where we're at. You know, I don't necessarily look forward to doing a detox 3 or 4 times a year. But I know what my family's history is like, and I know what kind of environment I live in, and I know what kind of stress level that I can deal with on a weekly basis. And so doing those types of things, that's why I do it, is because I think I have choices in my life, and I have choices for my family and what our whole life could be like. And I want to always be a blessing and not a burden. And so that's what I want you guys to think about. That's for me a really big why. But we're all different. Okay. So last thing, that's so mean. So I just want to show you, I've got all the cost information so you guys have that. Okay, so when you look at this, if it's, I need to get on track, it includes all of your supplements for the program. And then it also, the probiotic that I talked about, fiber supplement, the Ultra Clear Renew, the Advoclear, your shaker cup. Pre and post measurements, your BIA analysis, which I think is a tremendous tool for keeping you accountable. The entire package of that is $2.99. What we're doing for our clients tonight is if you guys want to do it, you're really committed to doing it. You guys know us, we always reward people for taking action. So if you really feel like you just, like this, I just need to get this done, I need to do it, we're giving you $30 off of that tonight, so it comes down to $269. The things that you need to start to do is I need you to schedule a 15-minute exam with us so we can get your measurements and we can do your BIA. So I want to know exactly where you're at when you're starting it, and then I need you to start following the plan. And so we are here to help. We've got a great team to help you with questions. Scott and I are here to help. We want you to be as successful as possible, so if there's questions along the way, please ask us. And congratulations on taking those steps to really achieving a great level of health. Questions at all that I can answer? Yes, go for it, Ashley.
What are your thoughts of the detox program while on antibiotics?
Good question. So I would wait until you're off of the antibiotics because they are stress to the liver. It's not that you can't do it at the same time, but when you're giving the nutrients, or you're giving the liver nutrients, you're actually stressing it in a way as well, because you're asking it to perform at a higher level. You're asking it to be upregulated. And so I would wait until you're done, maybe give yourself a couple days, and then there'll be time to start. Yeah, good question. Anybody else? You can start the program whenever you want, so you don't have to do it on Monday. You might be still on vacation and vacation mode. You might need to wait until September. I don't know. We're all different, but just know that you don't have to start it. You can have the products. These products will be good for another year, so you've got plenty of time to get that done. Anything else I can help with?
I have another one. Sorry.
Yes, go. Go for it.
So obviously the products themselves, are they GMO free?
Good question, yes. So everything's GMO free. You've got a great, Metagenics is one of my favorite companies to work with because they are very clean and they're also, again, third party tested. Ultra Clear Renew, when you think about it, so if you were to go to like Vitamin Cottage, supplements are pretty unregulated in the industry, which is really tough because as much as there are some supplements that people really need, if they're unregulated, they could say that they have anything in the world in them and not really be true. It might not be true. But this is a medical food. So medical food falls right under a pharmaceutical. So here's a pharmaceutical, here's a medical food, both regulated by the FDA, and then there's supplements down here. So that's the difference with it, is that it still has to pass all of those, all of that testing to be cleared to be very clean, pure. Yes, and gluten, dairy free, all the stuff that we're talking about, yes. Yeah, it's a rice-based product.